Noite.
Good
Todos
evening.
preparados para esse momento?
Everybody
Eu sou a
prepared for
Gleice
this
Freire e eu estou
moment.
aqui acompanhada
I'm
da...
Gracie
Karine, oi
Freire.
gente,
I am
que
with
bom que vocês já estão
Karine.
aqui.
Hello
Acho que já tem
everyone. That's
umas
good
pessoas aí que
that
estão
you're all
ansiosas para o
here.
nosso momento, vai
Everybody
já
is
já começar,
eager
mas
to
agora a gente
this
está nesse momento
moment.
aqui de
We are about
aquecimento,
to
se preparando um
start. We
pouquinho,
have this
com
warm-up
alguns
moment,
recados,
preparing
inclusive, que são super
ourselves
importantes
with
para a
some
noite de hoje.
reminders
Como, por
which are very
exemplo,
important
vocês
for
são
tonight.
fundamental
For
nesse
example,
evento
you
todo, tá?
are
Então
of
participem com a
paramount
gente nas
importance for
nossas
the
redes
whole
sociais,
event.
sempre com a
Participate with
hashtag
us in the
ToNoSAS.
social network,
Verdade, Karine.
hashtag.
Nós temos outra novidade também, para quem
And
já
we have
percebeu. Nós temos
another
3
news.
salas de
We
interação.
have
A
three
primeira,
interaction rooms.
100%
The
em
first one,
português, do começo ao fim.
100%
Então,
in
quem
Portuguese
está
from
lá
the
na
beginning
primeira
to
sala vai
the end.
perceber que está
Whoever is
100% em
this in the
português.
first
A
room, you
segunda
will
sala,
notice it is
ela é
in Portuguese. The
100% em inglês,
second one,
inclusive o nosso momento com os
100% in
palestrantes, que será
English. Our
traduzido.
moment
E
with
nós
the
temos uma
speakers that will
terceira
be
sala, 100%
translated, and we
em
have a
português,
third
mas
room,
com legenda para
100% in
tradução
Portuguese, but
inclusive.
also
Então, se
with
você não escolheu a
sign
sala que você queria,
language
permaneça até o
translation.
final
If
do
you
evento,
didn't
é só
choose
chegar
the
até
room
o
you want,
final e
go
selecionar
there
qual
to
sala
the
você
main
quer.
screen and
Gleice, mais
select the
algum detalhe
screen,
super
the
importante?
room that you
O
want.
SAS
We have
Summit,
some
gente, está
important moments.
começando
SAS
hoje,
Summit
mas
is
lembrando que
just
são
starting today, but we
sempre
have
na quarta-feira
4
e na sexta,
gatherings on Wednesdays
mensalmente. Então, a
at
programação está muito
6:30.
legal.
Today is
Dia de
just the
workshop
beginning. It's a
sempre
very
segunda, para a gente
good
pensar
schedule,
tecnologia,
exchanging
inovação,
idea,
educação
thinking
em
about
cada um desses
technology,
momentos. É isso, a
innovation,
participação de
education
todos vocês
in
é
each of these
fundamental.
moments. The
Verdade.
participation
Então,
of
nos
you
acompanhe nas
is
redes sociais, no
fundamental.
arroba SAS
Follow
Educação.
us
E
on
também
at
marque
SAS
vocês com a
Educação
nossa
and
hashtag
tag
Eu Tô
your
no SAS
pictures
Summit.
with
Então, chame a
the
família, chame
hashtag
seus
Estou no
colegas,
SAS Summit.
postem as fotos
Invite
nas
our
redes
family,
sociais, marque
friends,
para a gente
post the
poder passar
pictures
nas
on
nossas
social
zonas de
media
interação do dia.
so that we
Vai
go
ser
through
muito
the
bacana essa
interaction
zona de
zones
interação hoje.
that we have.
O chat
We
aqui
have lots of
bombando. E o
chat,
mais
lots of talks,
trabalho
and
com
the best
educação
part
é
is when
sempre
we
muito
work
legal
with
a gente compartilhar com
education,
todo
it's
mundo que
always
está ao
good to
redor.
share with
Trabalhar com
everyone around
educação não
us.
é só estar
To
dentro da
work with
escola.
education
Trabalhar com
is not
educação é
only at
construir, é
school. To
transformação,
work
é
with
evoluir.
education is the
Então
bridge
chame sua
of the
família, chame
world
seus
link,
amigos, chame todo mundo para
bond.
participar desse
Invite our
evento hoje.
family, friends, invite everyone to participate in this event. We want to gather everyone, beautiful minds, thinking about it and think how we can prepare for the challenges we have now. They are not a few, and the challenges which are to come. Education is this motion all the time. So, innovation, technology, education, they are the topics of SAS Summit 2021 with national, international speakers. Invite everyone to participate in all the gatherings that we are going to have. We're just starting. Take these initial moments of our event, go to the social media, post your pictures, post our hashtag I am at the SAS Summit, and use our chat that is going through our interaction zone. Bring your inputs, your pictures, use the hashtag and your inputs. It will be really important to have a chat with content and produce together with the cooperation of all of you. It's done by many hands, SAS Summit, and it will be really rich, wealthy if you participate with us. It's just missing 10 minutes to start our session tonight. Get some popcorn, water, go to a comfortable place in the couch, stay comfortable so that this event is fantastic for everyone. We are very eager to start the session tonight. There are some important tips. For example, try to put your cell phone on silent mode, focus here. It's a moment for learning. Indeed, we are going to listen to many people, renowned people, our pillars. And do I tell the news or no? Ah, you're going to advance it. Some news already. Oh, no, no, I'm not going to jump the gun. So let's hold emotion. We have some news getting to you during the event, okay? You see? So you stay with us. You don't need this to hold anyone here because it's so engaging. I'm sure when we get to the end, you're going to have this sensation. Oh, is it already over? I want another session. We are going to have 3 more gatherings in addition to this one. Oh, I'm really eager, Karine, for the other ones. Hold on. Take this time. Get some water, popcorn, a snack, silent mode, okay, your cell phones, and invite more people to join us.
Boa noite a todos e a todas. Eu gostaria de começar dando boas-vindas a cada um de vocês na segunda edição do SAS Summit. Oh, Gleice! Eu me chamo Karine Moreira, estou como gerente executiva de consultoria educacional aqui no SAS e junto com a minha parceira Gleicinha, nós vamos acompanhar vocês em todos os dias do evento.
É isso mesmo, Cá. Sejam todos bem-vindos. Eu sou a Gleice Freire, sou especialista educacional aqui do SAS e é com muita alegria que nós recebemos vocês aqui no nosso SAS Summit 2021. Estão todos preparados? Está preparada, Karine?
Tô sim.
Boa! Karine, você já parou para pensar o quanto nossa vida mudou no último ano?
Mudou bastante, né, Gleice?
Muito, gente. Nosso jeito de nos comunicar, nosso jeito de trabalhar, até novos meios de transporte, novos meios de comunicação surgiram. Com certeza somos novas pessoas.
Sem dúvida, a rotina é outra nesse novo mundo, né? Em especial do ano passado para cá. E acompanhar a velocidade, a rapidez com as quais as coisas acontecem é cada vez mais desafiador. Na verdade, Gleice, a educação nunca foi exatamente um mar calmo, né? Mas é justamente isso que nos possibilita expandir, compreender
This is
mais
what
e
makes
adaptar
us expand, understand better the reality, and be prepared more and more for the problems and solutions for the present, and also think about the future. This is the spring that we have, the springboard, thinking about evolution, the movement. This makes education a real important bridge for people things, and the world. And before these challenges, we bring technology as a possibility for solutions and also innovation as something that helps us to understand the world, expand, and impact in a bigger way. Yes, this is it, Karin. Education, technology, innovation. They are the three pillars of SAS Summit in its second edition. So the future is made with innovation. Starting today, technology helps us make innovative ideas real ones. Come true. Thinking about these three pillars, technology, education, and innovation, that we are going to hold this event, SAS Summit, and the next three events. We have the first today, we have reflections, talks, insights about the biggest trends in technology, innovation, and how this brings changes and impacts into the classroom throughout the world on a daily basis. Nothing better than bringing people who are renowned nationwide and internationally to make contributions and to us and have your input. This is paramount. We are eager to that. Before starting our session today, we know that we cannot see each other. We are a little far from each other. To closer this, um, invite your friends, family, your dogs, cats. Put popcorn beside you and tag us on social media. Put our hashtag I am at SAS Summit posted there, SAS Education, because we have an interaction zone just to be closer to you. So um, when you're, we have two special people, Cassia, Isaki, welcome.
Oi, pessoal, eu sou a Cássia, sou especialista em produtos digitais aqui no
I
SAS.
am Cassia, expert of digital products. I am together with Isaac. We are going to be managing the interaction zone, looking at everything that you send to the chat, the pictures on Instagram, and we are going to show up here to talk to you. Isaac, are you prepared? Yes, Cassia. Let's go to this first day. I am Isaac. I'm the manager of digital content at SAS. I am with Cassia here, interacting with you on social media. I have two reminders, the hashtags to in SAS Summit and after at SAS Educação. It's our Instagram. We will be throughout the event talking to you. So just to see if everybody has already warmed up before inviting our first speaker, put on the chat. What are your expectations from this event? Because we are going to talk about innovation, technology, and education, we already know, but where are you from, your school, and expectation for the day today? Okay, we'll be right back, okay, to check on that. Thank you, Kasia, Izaki. It's going to be really good to have you with us today. Izaki and Kasia, they are in the interaction zone. Let's participate a lot. Mind you, SAS Summit is just starting. Today is the first day, but there will be four gatherings on Wednesday starting at 6:30 p.m. from today to June 16th. Your participation is paramount. Put a reminder on your cell phone, on your schedule, your calendar. It's incredible with beautiful minds, incredible people that will bring reflection, insights to education, schools, everything. Oh, I've got butterflies. Hold your emotion because we have some news. And you noticed today we have in our session this year three broadcast room. The first room will be 100% in Portuguese from beginning to end. The second one will be 100% in English, and the moments with the speakers will be translated. And the third one will be 100% in Portuguese with a sign language translation. If you haven't chosen your favorite room, select yours on the initial page or on the chat. We are going to have the links, okay? Very good, Glaze. So everybody's eager to start the event, to start reflecting, think, interact with us in the chat. The time is now. And now, welcome. The welcoming part in the first day of SAS Summit. I'd like to invite our General Director, João Cunha. Before starting speaking, we are going to get to know him a little bit. Come here,
Cearense,
João.
apaixonado
He's from
por
Ceará
pessoas e
State,
gestão,
passionate for
gosta de
people and
falar que
management.
teve
He
sua vida
likes saying
transformada
that
pela
he had
educação
his
desde
life
a
transformed
infância.
by education
Formou-se em
since his
engenharia de
childhood. He
computação
has
pela
a degree
Unicamp
in
e
computing
estudou
engineering by Unicamp. At Unicamp, he studied development of executive leadership at Stanford University. He won medals in Brazilian Physics Olympics. He has experience in consulting at Boston Consulting Group, and he has been 10 years at SAS. It's with great honor we announce João Cunha, General Director of SAS Education Platform, to welcome you and talk to you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Glaze, Karine, Isaac, and Cassie in the interaction zone. Welcome to our SAS Summit. It's a great honor and great joy to have all of you participating in this event. And we've been really proud of everything that we have prepared so far, and we want to fulfill your expectations. And this might be the biggest and most important event in our history because of the relevance of the topics which will be addressed and the greatest relation with the moment we have now. We have over 13,000 sign-ups for today, and also the people who are going to share contents with us, the speakers today, Jonathan, Marcio, Renata, our educational consulting director and marketing, and the other ones in the other weeks, members of our teams, Rafael Martinez, Ademar Saledonio, Giorgio Marinho, our founder, Ari, as well as other renowned names, Gustavo Caetano, Luisa Trajano, and many other people. So we understand the attendance of everyone as a trust vote. That it's going to worthwhile to participate, to hear the topics that we address, to get to know a little bit more our team and our culture. So as we are talking about culture, as we do in every event we hold, either internal ones, external ones, I'd like to share with you the basis that we have, our mission, our vision, and our values. Our mission: transform people by means of education with excellence, being the protagonist of evolution of the way of teaching and learning. Our vision is to be the best education platform in the country, offering, providing content technology services at excellence level in a sustainable way. Values: ethic, respect, openness, focus on the customer, excellent people, ownership, excellence, innovative spirit, meritocracy, discipline and execution, simplicity, humility, and concern about the cost. So with this mission, I'd like, on behalf of SAS, acknowledge all the education professionals that throughout this period showed us and keep on showing us commitment, effort, capability of adaptation, and many other attributes to fulfill this noble purpose, which is educating. In this period, innovation, technology, they've been really intensified in our ecosystem. When we stop and think about the routine of all the members, the school community, it's really clear this changing speed. With this in mind, that we would like to reinforce how important it is to combine these aspects that were accelerated and think in the longer run and think about quality, the excellence present in our mission to transform people by means of education is reached by investments and attitudes um, day in and day in. Today better than yesterday, and tomorrow be better than today. Everybody, every day, throughout many years, this has been our philosophy, our commitment. And with that, we have SAS Summit. Before carrying on with the event, last I'd like to recommend a book to everyone. It's a book that is really related to what we are going to address today. It was broadly discussed on SAS as a habit of our culture that is called kumbuka. It's a kind of ball. First, let me talk about kumbuka. Basically, with some rules focused on commitment, discipline, we choose a book to read and discuss. And weekly, with a fixed time and day, we discuss chapter and chapters week after week and try to bring the learnings from this reading to our daily routine. It's been really a wealthy process that, that has been done for over 10 years at SAS. Before the recommendation of the book, I would recommend this practice to all of you. Combination of reading, learning, the, that they go together, and applicability on a daily basis is really promising. About the book, the name of the book is Where Dreams Happen by Robert Iger, with great lessons, principles on leadership, humanity, character, traits. They are part of Disney transformation. For example, in the moment that the competitive scenario was very complex and technology transformed the sector at a high pace. Any similarity is not a coincidence. He approaches the commitment with equality, with excellence, and how to use technology as a friend and reinforce the credibility of the brand. They are really important. So the book in English, the name of the book in English is The Ride of a Lifetime. We have lessons to be learned and applied on a daily basis. So this is our recommendation here for you. Thank you. I thank you again for your attendance. It's a great honor to have you all here. It's a great pride to provide this event, and we wish you a great SAS Summit, and I hope you enjoy it. Great hugs. So now back to you, Karini and Glaze. It's very good. Now we go to our chat room with Cassia. Okay, how are things there? We are back with our interaction zone. Thank you, Joel, for your words and tips. We have no doubt that our session will be incredible today. Let's look at some schools, the expectations for the day today. Show us, Isaac. Yes, let's check that out. The interactions on the chat for our event. Oh, it's going fast. So many people are following. Let me try to get some words, some schools. I have someone from Santa Catarina. Good evening, Santa Catarina State, Pará State, Piauí, Pro Campus School, Maranhão State. People are really fast in the chat. It's hard to follow. Omega School, Salvador, Bahia State, São Judas in São Paulo. Oh, it was really fast. Comment again because it passed really fast. There are many things that I didn't see. Our hashtag. Please post our hashtag. Hashtag ToNoSAS Summit at SAS Education so that we can see in our profile. Next interaction, Instagram will be here. I'd like to see your picture following our event, okay? Let's have a look at the picture. We have people posting on Instagram. Joel, hashtag SASUMT at SASUMT Education, learning, always learning. Bia Coelho, SAS Summit, using our filter, improving the quality of the picture. For now, this is it. Let's invite Karine and Glaze to bring our next speaker. Okay, very good. Your engagement and how you're participating with us on the chat. We talked about dealing with the speed and the changes in the world. Isaac and Cassia, they are leaving that in the chat because it's really fast in the interactivity zone. Many people participating. It's our responsibility. The event is like that. We have your participation, and this is fundamental, it's paramount. There are many things to happen. Let's check now some more moments that we have today. So help me here, production. So we have Marcio Balas. He's going to talk about improvisation and creativity. And then we are going to get to know more about the overview of education around the world and discuss about inverted classroom. It's a methodology with John Bergman. And he'll have a talk with our director, Renata Checo. It will be incredible. Stay with us.
Great, guys. So we are back now to our interaction zone. But first, I'd like to thank Balas for this amazing talk and for sharing such amazing stories that he has been through in his life. He talked about being able to say yes. And let's remember that improvising is not doing things any way. But I want to say that John Berman, that is our next speaker, said he loved your energy and he loved your lecture. So you can put that in your resume now, right? So let's move on and let's see a little bit of what people are saying in social media. Yes, it was difficult to see everything you were typing on the chat, but we had to reinvent ourselves. And now I have a tablet. So it will be easier for me to see everything you're typing on Instagram, on our chat. And we decided to see what people were saying in English. And we were really surprised with the John Bergman's comment, who is a new fan of Marcio Balas now. And now we are going to bring up the chat. But first, I'd like to say that we have an active survey on YouTube. So after Balas, such an inspiring talk by Balas, what are you feeling? Let us know, and we will while we see what's up on Instagram, you can respond to the survey there, telling us whether you have learned to be creative. Okay, let's see how ready you are to implement the tips that he has given us. And now let's take a look at pictures on Instagram. I'd like to remind you that we have options in Portuguese and English, and some people are even improvising like Balas told us. I like to know what the translators did to translate the poetry. So you have here Thomas Barbosa. Okay, here we have some pictures, and then people are posting that they are learning. I think this was the beginning of our event, glazing this beautiful stage that we have here today. Learning a bit more. Sabrina said education, innovation, and technology. Said that she was ready for the event. What do we do in the holiday? It's a holiday? Where is the holiday today? Oh, Marcio Balas in Gabriela's Instagram. Sarah also bringing great image pictures. Oh, I loved his talk. I was laughing out loud. Do we have any others? Improvising and being creative with Márcio Balas. And remember, if you can use the hashtag Tonosa Summit, remember to also tag at SAS Educação. But don't leave just yet. We have a lot more to come. Now let's read some of the comments in the chat. Well, I was trying to watch the talk and reading the comments. And when he mentioned the dinner, I loved seeing the inspiring names you typed. Some of them were recurrent. And Márcio was the one who was most voted, right? But we had Jude Vigor and Malala. So I decided that my guess would be myself, because with such amazing names, I'm sure that it would be great for me to be invited by you, right? Do we have the answers of the survey? Oh, we have almost 1,000 votes, and after Balas, we left 4 options here. I'm going to be more creative. I have learned how to be creative. I'm never creative, and creativity is my last name. Let's see what people are saying. And now we get back to our main stage with Grace and Karini, because we have an amazing guest to talk to us later on. Yeah, we also want to take our selfie and post it on Instagram with the hashtag Tonosa Summit. I'm sure that we will be there in the next time the interaction zone is up. Now moving on to the most awaited moment of the night, but remember that we have 3 rooms. The first one will be 100% in English, and the next speaker will be speaking English, and we will have it in Portuguese here. The second room is in English, and the third room has translation into Brazilian Sign Language. If you want to go to a different room, no problem. You can choose any link that you want. You just have to go to the previous page and choose the best room for you. Yes, we have great talks ahead of us. This is not the end. To the contrary, this is just the beginning. I'd like to remind you that, well, we haven't talked about that yet, actually. Well, Glaze and I are here on the same stage. We're not wearing a mask. Same thing with Cassie and Isaac. I'd like to let you know that we are all, well, everyone who is here in this amazing production, it's hard work. Yes, we have people here who have been working for a few days. We are adhering to all security protocols. All of us were tested, and we are following all safety protocols to make sure that everyone here is, first of all, negative for COVID. Everyone has been at home for 15 days. We have hand sanitizers everywhere. We are just not wearing masks right now when we are in the stage, and we have the fewest people needed to be here so that we can all be safe while we face such difficult times. And we are always learning, right? Balas talked about that, about improvising, about being creative. And we would like all of you to send feedback to us as well, the hostess. Say if we're speaking too fast, if we start speaking before time. I think we are speaking too fast. Yeah, I usually do that. But well, as I said, our evening is not over. To the contrary, we have great content ahead of us. And I was asking myself, how can schools, considering their different contexts, their different challenges, and all of them huge challenges, face all of that all over the globe? How are schools dealing with that? Our next guest will talk about education in different countries around the globe, involving not only the context of the pandemic itself, but also digital transformation through which our classroom is going through. Classrooms that were a place where we had real connection with our students, and we had to move to the digital world very hurriedly. So how can now the inverted classroom methodology help teachers in their daily lives. So now I introduce John Bergman, one of the creators of this methodology, and I'd like to also invite our director, Renata Chico, and before that we'll be getting to know a little bit more about each
Educadora há
of them.
34 anos, sendo
An educator
26
for
como
34
professor em
years,
sala
26 of them as a teacher in classrooms. In 22, he was awarded with the Excellent Award of Teaching English. And he is the author of 10 books. One of them, The Inverted Classroom, an active methodology for learning that has been translated into 13 languages. Do you know who we are talking about? Jonathan Bergman. And to share the stage with him, we have a great guest who has led amazing teams in international companies like Unilever, always seeing innovation as a means to transform society. She has a degree in business administration and an MBA by the University of Columbia. She is passionate for brands, education, and innovation, and is the director of marketing and innovation at SAS, Renata Checo. And so get ready to learn more about education, the impacts of the pandemic, and digital transformation in the work of teachers in their classrooms, and understand a bit more how an active methodology in an inverted classroom works. So we are very honored to invite Jonathan Bergman and Renata Checo for an amazing talk.
Olá, boa noite.
Hi, good evening.
How are you guys doing? It's great to be here with everybody.
Hi, John. Good evening. Good afternoon.
It's
So,
great
John.
to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. So, welcome to SAS Summit. Thank you for joining us all the way from Houston, Texas. It's an absolute pleasure to have you. So, before we start, did you have a chance to listen to Balas? Any points any remarks that you're going to carry with you? Any points on creativity that you thought were interesting for us?
Well, the issue is I don't know how I'm going to follow a guy up like that because he get right into the screen. He's got a nose. I was listening to someone he's just really got great ideas about innovation and how we can really think outside the box. And really, in many ways, what I'm going to talk about is how to think outside the box in the world of education. So I don't know how I follow up a guy who's that entertaining. I don't know if I could be that energetic. I'll try.
Well, you are a teacher, so I'm absolutely sure that you're going to follow with a very inspirational talk for all of us as well. Yes. As you know, I am particularly interested to learn more about the flipped classroom method and learning from you and all the learnings that you gathered from your experience all around the world. So I'm also sure that our schools and our viewers from all over Brazil will have a lot to learn from you. And the presentation is going to further inspire us and all of our viewers. So, guys, with no longer delays, I give you John Bergman. John, it's with you.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, SAS. What a great organization. I get to know some of you folks and what you guys do. It's really impressive. So I first want to ask you guys to imagine. Imagine that you get new students almost every week. Many of them haven't been in school, maybe for almost a year. They come to you with different skills, different backgrounds, different levels of parental support. Some come knowing your stuff, your content, your science, your history, your math, your whatever. But some comes with gaps in their knowledge. And many come with pressure from their parents. They come with pressure from themselves. Maybe lots of pain. But maybe you don't have to imagine, because maybe that's your reality. That's what you've been facing during this past year. What in the world has happened? We now live in a world that's gone crazy, and for lots of reasons, and the pandemic. So I did a little Google search. I Googled the word COVID and school, and I thought images, and I thought, what does it look like of the schools around the world? This is what it looks like in Taiwan, in Argentina, at the University of Oklahoma, a university in France, Pantheon University, Japo, I think in Portuguese, at the University of Kentucky, the Vatican, South Korea, Coreia do Sul, Brazil, right? Just like your classroom guys in Brazil. But then I thought, well, let's go deeper. What is it actually looking like? Maybe what does it look like for you even more? Maybe this is what your class looks like. This is what it looks like in the United Kingdom, right? Just staring at a screen, or just some room on Zoom. Are you tired of Zoom? I bet you are. This is Stanford Medical School. Crazy. Furman University in the Estados Unidos. Harvard University. Indonesia. South Korea again, but notice again, just empty seats. People trying to be energetic like our amazing clown on Zoom videos. New York University, the USA, all over the world. What are we facing? What is it that we're facing? We're in such a unique position in the history of education, aren't we? This is, well, everyone keeps saying unprecedented, crazy. And what are you facing? And I think a thing we all need to be realistic about is that we're facing learning loss. A study by the World Bank about Latin America, it said 120 million of the region's school-aged children had already lost or were at risk of losing an entire academic year. By now, my guess is your students have lost an entire academic year. All right. They further went and said, learning loss will likely be substantially larger for the children in the lowest income quintile, widening the already high socioeconomic education achievement gap by 12%. So in Brazil, in Colombia, in Argentina, and really all over the world, we are facing significant loss. And this report by the World Bank had 6 recommendations. Some of them were about hygiene and how to get back into school and many of those things, and those are all good. But I think the most important one that I really want to address is their last one, and that is this one right here. It says that teachers and principals, directors, right, will need to be supported to obtain the skills to optimize the alteration of in-person and remote activities. Or in other words, we need to learn how to teach differently. I was talking with some folks today, and we were talking about just the state of education. And one thing I said is, teachers, let me say this has been your hardest year. This has been a crazy, crazy difficult year, regardless of what your context is. And the things I want to say today are going to challenge you to think differently about education. But I also want to say this. Don't hear what I'm saying as like judging you for doing something different. You have done courageous work in education this year, teachers. This has been so hard. But I want us to rethink how we do school in light of how we used to do it, but also to learn from the things that we've done during this time and to tweak it and to do it better. So what I want to talk about is if there is a way to help us out of the pandemic, to teach differently out of the pandemic, use the things that we've learned in the pandemic to change how we teach. So we come out of it better and stronger, and our students come out better and stronger in the long term. In the short term, it's going to be hard. Where do we look? Now, I want to argue that we want to look back to somebody that you're probably quite familiar with, and that is Benjamin Bloom. So you recall Benjamin Bloom, Bloom's taxonomy. You may not know this, but Benjamin Bloom and Bloom's taxonomy has a lot to do with the concept of flipped learning. So I want to give you a few basics of flipped learning, probably something you haven't necessarily heard about before, and we're going to talk about it in terms of Bloom's taxonomy, right? Taxonomia de Bloom, right? So in Taxonomia de Bloom, you recall there are 6 levels of cognition. at the lowest level, remembering and then understanding, aplicar, analizar, avilar, and criar, right? And if you look at most classrooms pre-pandemic, and probably really post-pandemic, we spent the vast majority of our face-to-face class time, whether that face-to-face class time was actually in a live classroom or in a Zoom room or whatever type of a video conferencing room you used, we spend most of our time at the bottom two tiers of Bloom's. And we spend little time, so think of this graph, this pyramid, as time in class that you spend with your students. And I'm going to confess, when I first started teaching in 1986. I'm old. And somebody was asking on Facebook today, and they said, how old are the first students that you taught? And I did the math, and they're like in their 40s. That's scary. So I've been around education for a long time. But the idea of flipped learning, sorry, I got distracted. The idea of flipped learning is that you don't spend the most class time at the bottom levels of Bloom. Instead, you rethink Bloom's taxonomy and you flip it upside down. You spend less class time on remembering and understanding and more class time on application, analysis, evaluation, and creation. Or what I think is actually the ideal shape of Bloom's taxonomy, again, from a time perspective, is to spend the bulk of your class time in the middle of Bloom's taxonomy. Now, you might ask yourself, well, what? Kids can't apply what they don't know. You've got to have a way to get them information. You see, flipped learning starts with one very simple question. It's this: what's the best use of your face-to-face class time? You see, you only have so many minutes a day. And with Zoom and pandemic learning and remote learning, if you have face-to-face time, it's in a Zoom room, and your time likely got cut significantly. I know when we went to remote learning at my school where I teach at, we lost huge amounts of time with our students face-to-face. We moved, it was in a Zoom room, and I had to even rethink, what am I going to do with that face-to-face time? Because really the idea of flipped learning is that you do the easy stuff, or students do the easy stuff, the remembering and the understanding, when they are, if you will, in the individual space, in Espanol, the espacio individual, when they're working by themselves, and then in the group space, the espacio grupal, that's where you want to do the hard stuff. Because the big idea of flipped learning, here's the big idea. You do the hard stuff alone, students do, and they do, I said backwards. You do the easy stuff alone, the students do, and then the hard stuff is done in the class where the teacher is. So when my students are struggling on a physics or a chemistry problem, they aren't at home anymore. They're in my classroom. And I say, well, I'll just help you. And sometimes in that classroom was in a Zoom room, right? If you're doing some kind of a remote thing. But that's the big idea. Because what happens in a traditional classroom? Let's go back to this slide, right? In a traditional classroom, my classroom, when I taught for 19 years this way, I would lecture, I'd do my thing, right? I'm going to try to be a clown guy. And I would teach, and I would be animated, and we'd do cool stuff. And then I would send them home to apply and analyze and evaluate. And they couldn't do it. Folks, we've had it backwards. Flipped learning is actually right-sided learning. Because what we need to do is put the best resource, the best resource in all of education, which is you, the teacher, at the point of greatest need. What's the point of greatest need? When they're stuck, when they need help. But if they're stuck at home, who's going to help them? And if you teach students who maybe go to a home where their parents are both working and they don't have time to help them, or they don't know how to help them, or it just doesn't work. But flipped learning, it just works. It just works. Research says it works. So let's talk about flipped learning in some more specifics. And I want to give you some tips on how to do flipped learning well. And the way I'm going to do this is kind of weird. I'm going to do it by telling you what not to do. How's that? I'm going to tell you the 10 biggest mistakes that you could make if you're a first-time flipper. And I think that'll help you understand what to do if I tell you what not to do. So the first one is Mistake number 10, your videos are too long. I've seen this over and over and over again with a younger, I'm saying our first time flip teachers, is they spend a huge amount of time in the creation of their videos. By the way, you don't have to just flip with videos. You can also flip with text. I would say in my classes, I probably am flipping with text about 20% of the time and 80% with videos. And actually I give students choices. They can read the text that teaches them the topic, or they can watch the video. And probably about 80% of my students choose to read or to watch the video, and 20% to read the text, which is totally fine. But the point here I want to make is short, short, short. So in my class, I teach a secondary school, high school students. They are, between 15 and 18 years old, probably. And in those students, my videos, the longest video I think I have this whole year is 12 minutes. So you want to keep them short. If you have younger students, maybe 5 or 6 or 7 minutes, something like that. One topic per video. It's really about getting really consistent about what you're doing. So if you make your videos, if you're doing videos, if you make your videos or use videos that are too long, then you're doing it wrong. Mistake number 9, lecturing when students don't watch. This is probably the worst mistake you can make. So here's the scenario. Some of your students have come in and they didn't watch the video. And maybe it's half. It's the first time you assigned the video. And it didn't work. Because you said, well, if only half of them didn't watch the video, then I have to lecture. What you just told every student who did the work, who did the pre-work, we like to say, that you told them they don't need to watch it. And you told every student who didn't watch it, they didn't need to watch it. So never, ever do this. So my students who don't do the work, by the way, some of my students don't do the work, okay? It's a deal. Then I'm going to make them watch it. I'm not going to help them. I'm not going to work with them until they have done the pre-work, and they'll do it right there in class. Never lecture. So if you lecture when students don't watch, then you're doing it wrong. Mistake number 8, if you make the content difficult to access. Now what I mean by this is I've seen people who have super complex ways. The students have to click into 8 different links, and they got to go here and there and here and there, and they've made it crazy complex. You want to have sort of a clearinghouse, a place to put everything that makes sense. So, for example, SAS has a great platform. I spent an hour and a half with them a couple of weeks ago, and they were showing me their system, and I was so impressed. And they have solved this problem. They are making it easy to access as opposed to making it difficult to access. So if you are making it difficult for your students to access, then you're doing it wrong. Mistake number 7, teachers not active in the classroom. Folks, the key to flip learning is not the videos. Let me say this again. It's not the videos. It's never been the videos. It's never, ever been the videos or the text. It's what you do in the class that matters. That's the key. Your job is not to sit behind your desk. It's to walk around the room and help your kids. That's the key. So let's take a look inside my classroom pre-pandemic. I didn't shoot it this year. It was crazy. But let's watch my classroom pre-pandemic. Maybe. There we go. So you can see my students doing an experiment. There's lots of activity, doing lots of different things. Students doing a different experiment. This is taking a summative test. Another student just taking notes on a video. And then I went to have conversations with students. I wear my shoes out because I'm walking around the room. I'm just individual working with kids. Lots of conversations. Hopefully you get the idea. You should be active. So if you are not being active in the classroom, then you're doing it wrong. Do not sit behind your desk. Mistake number 6. If you're not planning for students with incomplete understanding. Now, there's sort of a secret that you need to think about in this whole world. Maybe it's not a secret, but it's some of your students aren't going to get it. So they're going to watch a video. They're going to read some text, and they won't understand. What are you going to do? You need to have a plan. So I walked into this classroom with this teacher right here, and what I saw was amazing. So what I saw in this, he was a sixth grade teacher in Texas. I had a chance to visit his classroom. And first of all, he said, hey, John, I was just visiting the classroom for the day, and I was consulting with this school. And he said, let me show you what my students did ahead of time. And so he showed me like a spreadsheet of who'd watched the video and who hadn't. So he had them watch a video and take notes. And he had a tool, a software tool that told him who did and who didn't watch the video. All right. And so he knew that ahead of time. And so he walked into the classroom, and the first thing he did is he said, you, and you. He called out 3 students by name, and he said, you know what to do. And they glared at them and kind of gave them that look, right? The teacher look. And they pulled out a set of headphones, got out their Chromebook, and they started watching the video. See, these are students who hadn't watched the video. By the way, it's like 30 students crammed in this tiny room. It's just jammed room. And I thought, that's cool. And the next thing he did, though, was genius. He called out 7 students. And he said, you, called their names. And he said, I need you to come up to the board. He said, the rest of you get to start your assignment. Here's the assignment. Explained he had 3 minutes. This is what you need to be working on. You see, because the other thing he had done is he had given the students a short little mini quiz the night before. After they watched the video, they had to watch do a short little mini quiz. And these students had watched the video, but they had not scored a very high score. It was a 5-point quiz. And any student who scored a 1, a 2, or a 3, he called up to this mini group. And he sat them down in front of a whiteboard, and they went over the lesson. You see, he expected that some of his students weren't going to understand the contents. He knew that was going to happen. But some of them, many of them, maybe 20 or something, 20 of them had sufficient knowledge. They were ready to move on. But the other 7, they needed some additional support. So he planned for students with incomplete understanding. Now, that's not the only way to do it. His method, I think, is pretty cool. But you need to figure out a way to plan for students with incomplete understanding. So if you don't plan for students with incomplete understanding, then you're doing it wrong. What's the 5th mistake that people often make? Mistake number 5 is you don't teach students how to watch an instructional video. Now, I can't tell you how many teachers have told me they've done this. They said, I've created my first video, I found this YouTube video, I'm going to flip it, and they just assigned it. And the students either didn't watch it or they didn't really learn that much from it. And here's an important suggestion. It's like a cardinal rule in the flipped learning world. Teach them how to watch. You say, students don't know how to watch a video. No, they don't. Yeah, they know how to watch the latest Marvel movie or the latest Spider-Man movie. Or is he Marvel? I don't know. Whatever. They know how to watch some kind of entertainment movie, but that doesn't mean they know how to watch a video about science or history or languages or whatever it is that you're teaching. So here is a recommendation I would give you. And this is what I do on the first day of school. I say, everybody, you've learned this video. You've heard that this is this flipped class thing. Let's watch a video together. And so we watch a video on the big screen in my class, all face-to-face. I think it's, of course, this year I saw my kids on the first day in a Zoom room, whatever. But whatever you do, and you're going to watch the video together, and you're going to pause, have them take notes. I have a notes outline sheet. In fact, here's one of mine right here. So here's a sheet that I hand out to the students, and there's some things they have to fill out. So it's an organization sheet. They're going to fill this out as they're watching the video. They would call this a notes organizer sheet or a graphic organizer. And so my students are going to be filling this out while I give them instructions. And we watch it in class together. I do that the first day. And the second day, when they come back, they're going to watch a video on their own device, on their own, but I'm going to watch them take notes. They're going to do this in class. And on the next day, I'm going to do the same thing again. And on the next day, probably the same thing again. And at that point, I think I've trained them to do it right. In fact, the teacher we talked about a few minutes ago, the 6th grade teacher with the little quiz thing, he didn't send videos home for, he said, 6 weeks. Because he wanted to train them on how to watch a video. So if you don't teach students how to watch an instructional video, number 5, you're doing it wrong. Number 4 is this one. If you're not building interactivity into your lessons. Now, what I mean by that is you don't want students to watch a video, you want them to interact. And a lot of ways to do this, I should have had some other pictures, I just thought of this. Some tools that I have adopted lately is I've started to use a tool called Perusall. Perusall is a social learning, I upload my videos and my text to this tool, and the students make comments inside of the videos, and they have a conversation back and forth with each other and with me. There's also a great tool called Edpuzzle that does this, and I know SAS has ways to do this as well. So build interactivity into the lessons as they're working on them, because we know that learning should be social, and if it isn't, it doesn't work. So if you, number 4, if you are not building interactivity into your lessons, then you're doing it wrong. Number 3, I'm not going to tell you what it is. I want us to listen to a short video clip from a teacher who made this mistake. Yeah, so make sure you can cue the sound.
So I'm Adam Johnson from Alabama. I teach 8th grade math, and for 2 years I flipped using other people's videos, and I met John at a conference, and he challenged me to make my own videos and really pushed me. And against my will, I started making my own. Using other people's videos, I had 40 to 60% active participation. After making my own, it shot to 100% active participation, and it extends the level of trust, it gives a personal touch, and that's why I think making my own content is the difference maker. I think that's the game changer in the flipped method.
So you hear what he's saying? He's saying that before he made his own videos, he had very low participation. After he got 100%. And Adam teaches the most troubled, difficult students in his school. So he's not teaching the advanced students, he's teaching the struggling students. And he credits to the fact that he's making them and they feel that ownership. We haven't expressly said this, but I will right now. One thing that's so powerful about flipped learning is that it improves the relationships that the teacher has with their students. And you creating that content yourself helps them to see that. What this is ultimately is what I like to call the curate create conundrum. All right, should you curate your content, find other people's content, or should you create it? And I think should be more thought of as a continuum. And I think the answer is more on the creation side than on the curation side. But let me say this very carefully. If you don't have the time, the bandwidth, or the energy, or the expertise to make a video, it's okay to use somebody else. It's a great place to start. That's what Adam did. And then eventually he made his own. And I don't make all my own videos either. I do use other contents from YouTube and other places where appropriate. So it's not always, so don't feel guilty and that you can't flip if you can't create your own content. But I would argue that my guess is that since the pandemic hit, you have learned how to make videos because you had to, because you were sitting in front of your computer and your kids were on a computer. And so I think a lot of the barriers that used to be in the flipped learning world aren't barriers anymore. So if you, number three, if you only use other people's videos, then you're kind of sort of doing it wrong. I don't want to say you're doing it wrong. I just would encourage you, it'll be better practice if you do the rest. Mistake number 2, if you don't get other key stakeholders involved. The message of this slide came to me when I was working with a school in the U.S. and the teacher flipped her class, and she was, first of all, making 45-minute videos, and it wasn't going very well, and the parents were up in arms. And what I think needed to happen is she didn't take time to really communicate with the key stakeholders. What I do now is I create a video at the beginning of every year and I send it home to the parents to explain the way I teach. If you have a back to school night, I don't know, again, who knows if that'll happen next year with COVID, but a back to school night or a back to school Zoom night or whatever it might be where you meet the parents kind of, I don't know if you did that in Brazil, but it's very common in the US for us to have all the parents come to the school and they get to meet their teachers. I flip that. So I make a video that explains to the parents and they come and we have a conversation about what learning is going to look like in my class and why I teach the way I do. And it just works. So it's so important to communicate. I also will send out emails, whatever. I mean, basically the biggest, communicate with your stakeholders, primarily your parents. Would also include leadership at your school. It used to be, maybe this isn't as true as it used to be, but it used to be that many of the flip teachers were doing it by themselves and just by their school, and the principals and the administrators and the directors didn't know about it, and they were afraid of it. But that's become kind of almost reversed. Sometimes there's more reluctance on the part of the teachers than the leadership, because the leadership has started to see the research and know the value of active learning through the flipped model. And but still, if you're doing this, I would encourage you to think it through on how you can do this. One other story with this, I was working with a young teacher this year, and she decided to flip her classes, and the other teachers in her school, in her department, a particular department she was working in, science department, said basically, stop showing us up and don't do this. She stayed committed to doing this, but she realized that that was a school. Her principal was very supportive, but she just was feeling very under-supported. And I told her, I said, I'm not sure this is a good school for you to be staying at. It was her first year teaching, so she put herself on the market and had, oh my gosh, she had so many interviews, and eventually got a job at a school that said, oh, we want you because of this. And anyways, so some schools are still maybe a little bit short-sighted, shall we say. And the biggest mistake, the number one mistake, if you do this, don't do this, is if you don't make class time rich, meaningful, engaging. Like I said earlier, the magic, the absolute magic of the flipped classroom is what you do when you're face-to-face with your kids. Make that learning active, engaging. Do stuff. Have them do hands-on experiments. Have them debate. Have them do projects. Have them do, oh man, there's so many awesome things you could do. Peer instruction. Man. Have them write. Have them make videos. My students, one of their projects was they made videos, and the goal was to make videos better than my videos. And I'm going to use their videos next year with next year's students. And they learn so much by creating, right? Crear in the Bloom's taxonomy. So you've got to make it active. There was a study done maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I may not have the exact date. But anyways, it was relatively recent. It was a higher education study of chemical professors. And it found that about 25% of them have flipped their classrooms. This is at universities in mostly North America. And they found something that I think was the coolest thing about their finding. They said that those who flipped their class were 16 times more likely to have active learning in their classroom. And the way I interpret that is that if you don't flip your class, the 75%, then your chance of having an active classroom is only 1 in 16. Think about that. So I like to akin it to this. If you want active learning, there's more than one way to get active learning. Let me say this. And I think active learning is the key. But the flip learning is like the easy button, the easy way to move to active learning. So let's talk about COVID for just a moment, right? It's been a tragedy. It's been a horrible tragedy. And man, what I've seen what's happening to you guys in Brazil, I'm praying for you guys. Brazil and India are really struggling, and I know that. It's been a horrible tragedy. Across the world, certainly here in the U.S., my own son got COVID. He survived. He's a relatively young man, so not an issue. But I know that as I'm talking to you, that many of you have faced COVID in very, very horrible ways. But that said, I want to say that it's also, it's going to sound crazy, but I think it's an opportunity in the world of education. And I really want to encourage you to not waste this opportunity. It's an opportunity to rethink how we teach. You know, as I think about education, I think about there's three big things. There is how we teach, pedagogy. There's what we teach, curriculum. And there's how we know what they learned, and that's assessment. And I think all of the school reforms that have happened, and I know in Brazil, I've talked to a number of Brazilian folks, and you've spent a lot of energy on changing the curriculum. You've spent a lot of energy on changing the assessments. And SAS, that's what they do, their curriculum and assessment. But if you don't change how you teach, then I don't know it's going to work. And that's why SAS is awesome, because what they're doing is they're trying to not just have awesome curriculum, right, and awesome tech tools, and great assessment, but they've also got a heart to teach you how to teach and use it the right way. And that to me is what really needs to change how we teach. So we can't waste this opportunity, because if we have the same old thinking, we're going to always get the same old results, and it won't work. So what if you boldly changed your class? What if you really did this? And there are people who are way ahead right now on this. It's not very far from you in Misiones, Argentina. About, I want to say, I should do the math here, 3 or 4 years ago, they had me come down and I worked with the province of Misiones. And they made a commitment to flip the entire K-12 education system, run by the Minister of Education, Miguel Sedoff. And they have, in the process of flipping, and then when the pandemic hit, they were way ahead. They're figuring this out. This is happening all over the world. You may not know this, but Harvard Medical School has flipped. I got a chance to visit the medical school and to see what they're doing. It's amazing. This is not something that's, some people think, oh, flip learning, it's a fad, it's going to go away. Guys, there's like almost 1,000 studies, peer-reviewed studies, showing the efficacy of flip learning. This is not going away. We know it works. The results are in. And it's time to change. That's going to be hard, because your classroom will look so different. In fact, before the pandemic, I asked a bunch of people who were flipping their class to send me pictures of their class. Let's take a gander at these classes. This is what a flipped classroom looks like in Iceland. This, by the way, is this school. I've been to this school twice. These folks, they opened this school for the dropouts of Iceland. The kids who dropped out of school, and it became one of the highest performing schools in all of Iceland because they flipped. This is one of the great flip teachers in the world, Joanne Ward from Taiwan, and she's doing great stuff in Taiwan. This is radical in Asia. Morocco, this guy's been to a couple of conferences. He speaks because he's become a great leader in his part of the world in the flip learning movement. He's flipped his whole school. He's a principal and he's the teacher there. So awesome. In Singapore, awesome things happening all over the world. Again, see the collaboration, the group work. Again, all these pictures are pre-pandemic, as you could probably well imagine. I got a chance to know Reza Nahar from Iran, and they're flipping in Iran, folks. Guys, this is working all over the world. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, this is Harvard Medical School. All right, and I visited this classroom. What an amazing time spent with them. This right here is the first flipped school in all of New Zealand. It's a primary school, so elementary school. And I'm writing a new book right now. And in that book, I'm highlighting this school. What they've done is unbelievable. And and I had a chance to visit them years ago as well. This is in Hong Kong, in Nigeria, in Turkey. I visited this school as well in Turkey. This is the first flipped university in the whole world. All 100% flipped. They've got a great story. I'm glad to show you. In the United Kingdom. Here's one in España. In España. I know some Spanish, but not much Portuguese. In Australia. In China. In Argentina. This is one of the schools I visited in Argentina. In the USA. And then here's my class. Working with my students, doing electrical stuff, physics stuff, right? And of course, in Brazil. Folks, we know this works. We have the research. We know that you can do it. Let me make a bold prediction. If you, now what I'm talking to is you, the directors of the schools. If you, and I'm talking to you, the teachers in those schools. If you, maybe you're a government official in Brazil who says, we need to do something about our education system. Our kids have a lot of learning loss. We need help. If you implement flipped learning well, it will change the course of history for your country. It'll change the course of history for your students, if you're a teacher. It'll change the course of history for your students, if you're a school, all the students. And if you're the whole country, right, or the province or state in Brazil, Sao Paulo, or Porto Alegre, or something like that, you say, we're doing this. Guess what? I predict you will become like the leading, it'll change the world. Because when you change the life of a kid and give him or her that education and they learn, they really, really learn, it'll change the world. And people will look to Brazil as a stellar example of education. I know that maybe you don't have that reputation now, but what would be awesome if you did? And it's going to take a commitment from leadership and from schools and from individual people like you, especially you teachers. You've got to be willing to work. And I'll say this, it's going to be hard. What I'm asking you to do is not easy. Flipping your class is harder than teaching in the regular way. I'm going to say it, it's more work, but it's worth it. Yeah, I mean, my story, I was a lecturer, a stand-up and deliver lecturer for 19 years. And then when Aaron Sams and I kind of started creating this idea of flipped learning, we could never go back. 2 days ago, we had an awards assembly at our school. This is our last week of school, and we were giving out awards to students. And a young man sits down next to me, and he said, "So, Mr. Bergman, are you teaching physics next year?" I said, "Yeah." "Do you teach it with that flipped mastery thing?" I said, "Oh yeah." And he just like, "Oh man," he said. And then we were just talking. I said, "You know, son, in good conscience, I could never do anything else because I know it works. Because I know that I would be doing a disservice if I didn't do this. I know I have to work extra hard, but it's worth it because my kids are worth it. And I know your kids are worth it. Each one of your kids, think of their faces. Think of their faces. Well, although maybe you can't see their faces because they're always behind a mask. So I don't know. Actually, interesting thing today, a side note. We made a decision. These are the last 2 days of school that our students can take their masks off. I saw my kids today for the first time without their masks. And I turned to one kid and I said, "Lawton, turn around, look at me." He said, "What?" I didn't know what you looked like. All I'd ever known was his face from the eyes up. And I was talking to my kids saying, "Oh, it's so good to see your face." And I hope that soon you in Brazil will have that same opportunity to see the faces of your kids because they are worth it. You can be the change. You will be the change. I know it. Thank you very much.
Wow. John, thank you so much for so many insights. It felt like seeing the future, so I agree with you. Our kids are absolutely worth it. And I really hope that we can see this reality more often here in Brazil. I really hope so. And I hope that our schools feel as inspired as I do right now. So thank you very much. So gladly, we have some time for questions because we have received a bunch of them about different topics. So let me start with the first one here. Mm-hmm. So a common misconception of the flipped classroom method is that it simply means that students should read the content by themselves before classes. And I loved your topic and the mistake that you pointed out, that you should teach your students on how to best interact with the pre-work, right? And because of that, families many times complain that this means that the teacher is no longer teaching, right? As you mentioned. And that the students are carrying the load by themselves. Could you suggest how schools that want to implement this method might deal with this perception and convince families that this is the best method available?
Well, that's a common thing. This kid will go home and he'll say, "My teacher's not teaching anymore." And I have to teach myself. And actually, this is not original to me, but Robert Talbot, who a great thinker in the flipped learning movement, wrote a book on it as well. He and I were talking. He said, "Actually, I think that's a feature. It's a positive of flipped learning. Yes, I want my students to go home and teach themselves. That's actually true. Because how are you going to best learn it if you learn it for yourself? Yeah. That doesn't mean my students aren't going to come to class and struggle and need extra help. I'm going to be there to help them. And the idea is to introduce them to new content through the media, whether it's text or video, and then they're going to come and apply it in class. So I think the expectation in that question is, I'm expecting my students to have mastered everything by watching a video. No. Your students are going to come to your class having been exposed to it so that they can apply it and practice it in your class. So I think that's the key in understanding that question.
Yeah. I think adjusting expectations, right? This is what you mean. And it's something we really also need to educate our families as well, right? Not only the teachers and the students, but also the whole community and the families involved in the process.
Absolutely.
Cool. So the next one, so it is about how schools are oriented towards content. So it is possible that in several countries where the teaching methods are still traditional and content oriented, students are not used to high autonomy levels. How can schools use active methodologies while they are still complying with all content requirements imposed by local legislations?
Yeah, one of the beauties of flipped learning is it works if you're teaching lots of content. A lot of the studies show that students will score better on standardized test scores if they flip their classroom. So if you are stuck in that kind of high content expectations, it will work. But I would encourage you not to just do that. I mean, the beauty of flipped learning is going to give you more time. I know I just said something. It'll give you more time. You'll have more time, and you'll get through more content if you want to. But I would encourage you not to get through more content. I would encourage you to go deeper with that content and do more active methodologies. It was, I don't have the year on this, but Dr. Patricia Cross was the Dean of the College of Education at the University of California at Berkeley. It's a very, very famous and important institution in the United States. And she wrote a paper, and basically something to the effect that what we know about education and how we know it. And in that paper, she said something that I thought was super powerful. She said, active learning is the grand meta principle. Let me say that again. Active learning is the grand meta principle. And as I interpret that, that means active learning wins. So whatever you do, she's saying people learn best by doing active learning. There was another study, actually this is recent, I was talking to a friend on the West Coast of the United States, and he cited a study with project-based learning and kind of our most advanced students. It was an advanced placement program. He was talking about this, and basically it said that students' test scores rise when they have project-based learning done well. And they're making a point for bringing into the highest level classes in the high schools in the United States project-based learning because it works.
Simple as that. Yeah, it should be, right?
Yes.
John, now I have a question from one of our viewers here. Her name is Rosângela Curvoleite. So Rosângela, thank you very much for your question. In these COVID times, what are your recommendations, and are there any adjustments on how to implement the flipped learning methodologies in an online environment? So when students can no longer be interacting with their colleagues in the classroom all the time.
Yeah, there's quite a few recommendations. I'm not sure I have time to go through. I'll just list just a couple. Clearly, flipped learning is designed. It can easily be switched into the online environment. One of the key things, obviously, is don't use any of your face-to-face time in your Zoom room or whatever room you're using for lecturing. Use that, do that pre-learning, figure out a way to get that to them ahead of time, and then use any time that you have with your students for active learning activities. Now, active learning activities are harder to do in an online environment than it is in a face-to-face environment, but there are lots of things you can do. You can have games, you can have debates. I helped a teacher do Socratic seminars, which is a method where students have a discussion around a specific topic. It was basically, you can read about Socratic seminars, but it can be done online context. Make sure you find a way to bring in active methodologies. But the thing you have to stop doing so you have that time is you have to stop lecturing in any kind of way that isn't in a time shifted, like, flipped video model. So that's kind of my big idea for you, I guess. There's lots of answers I have, but I'm not sure we have a whole lot of time. So.
Yeah, you can share more information afterwards, and we will gladly share this with our schools as well. I think that's a great recommendation. Actually, it's a great suggestion of our further collaboration, right, John? This is something that we really want to work on together. So that's a great path to the future for us. Mm-hmm. Now, Larissa Verissimo is asking you, about what is the best way to evaluate students in this methodology. So once like you're working with the students inside the classroom, how do you apply the evaluations?
Well, I'm going to probably hedge this question. I don't think it matters as much. So for me, my journey through assessment, when I first flipped my class, I gave the same tests I gave before. I didn't change the way I tested. I gave them the same tests. My students scored 1 standard deviation better, so higher test scores by 1 standard deviation when we first flipped our class 1 year. But then I began to realize, as I was spending so much time walking in the room working with kids, that I needed to change how I assessed. And there's lots of debates about the whole assessment issue. So I have landed, again, I'm not sure this is flipped learning speaking as it is John Bergman speaking. I really have come to really strongly believe in a lot of formative assessment. So I spend a lot of time, the vast majority of the time I am with my students. You saw me in that short clip. I'm walking around with my clipboard having a conversation with students. And in that conversation, it's not just, oh, let's talk. I have directed specific questions I'm going to ask them about the lesson, doing what I call a mastery check. And so a lot of my conversation, a lot of my assessment is happening in these brief conversations. I also, though, still give more traditional summative assessments. In fact, my students take their final exam tomorrow. And when they take their final exam, it's actually different. So I'm doing mastery models. So in a mastery model, what students do is they have to pass before they move on. So every large unit, the students had to get a minimal score, in my context, 80% before they moved on. And I have this done in a software platform, so if they fail the first time, they can take it again. But when they take it again, they literally get a different test each time. And so I still have a more traditional test, although it's done through an online platform. And that online platform allows me to really give them different assessments every time. And so my guess is, as we speak, I know a lot of my students are taking the practice assessment, which is actually the same assessment they'll take tomorrow, except they're going to get it every time they take it, they get a different set of questions. The key there, again, this is a lot of work, is I have a huge bank of questions to pull it from, and then they have to pick, the computer is going to randomly pick questions of equal difficulty so that they get a fair test. So I don't know. There's a lot of answers I have about assessment, but again, a lot of this is John talking more than, you don't have to change your assessment if you're going to first flip. If you're just starting to flip, actually my recommendation, don't change your assessment. You're going to have enough work to do. Maybe that's a year 2 thing or a year 3 thing.
Okay, that's really interesting. But for the ones that really want to do it in the future, right, as the second or third step, I think technology can be a great ally as well. So
absolutely. And another thing, when I said in the mistakes to make, make your own video content, but in my mind, nobody cares about the assessment. Who cares? I mean, who makes the assessment? And so I know SAS has some great assessment stuff. Use their tool. Just, if it fits your curriculum and your contents, then use the tool that's already there. I wish I had a tool like SAS that I could use that had all the contents, but I'm having to build all my own. So I'm like scouring the internet for lots and lots and lots of questions on whatever the topic is. And then, anyways.
We can also work on that. Don't worry. We would love to expand to the US.
Yeah.
Great. So John, one last question before we close this very inspirational chat. So you have, as you demonstrated here, you have implemented the flipped classroom all over the world, right? In different realities, different backgrounds. What do you believe is yet to come regarding active methodologies? So what new changes will still occur? And what new proposals are yet to emerge? What do you think?
I think flipped learning and active methodologies is going to happen. When cars were first being made and people were also riding in horses and buggies, the horse and buggy people were not very happy, and they said, "I'm not ever going to buy that stupid, smelly car." And of course, cars took over the world. I think the wave of how we teach is going to change, whether you like it or not. Some people will maybe come kicking and screaming, but I think the wave has happened and it's now been accelerated by COVID. Other things I'm seeing on the horizon that I think are going to radically change education. I've had some time to spend with some people who are working in the world of artificial intelligence and education, and I do believe artificial intelligence is going to radically change how we teach. And I mean, it's getting smart enough that one company I talked with, they've got facial recognition. So when a student is confused working on a problem, it alerts the teacher and then they tells them they need help right now. So because it can tell if you're confused by having a webcam on, which is kind of weird too and kind of creepy, I think. But anyways, there's a lot of technology out there that's going to radically change education. I don't think it'll ever replace a teacher because good teaching has and always will be about relationships and connections with kids. And no computer and no AI can ever do that. So I'm not at all an advocate for less teachers. I'm an advocate for using technology in a way that will enhance and encourage that relationship.
Absolutely. I think more and more we feel this need, right? I think after here in Brazil, 18 months of COVID, I think we feel more than ever this need to be together, to learn from each other. So I totally agree that technology can be a great enabler, but the teacher will always be the teacher, right? So, John, thank you so much. It was incredibly inspiring. We learned a lot, and I'm sure that our schools are also feeling extremely inspired. So thank you very much. And I really hope this is only the beginning of a great collaboration between SAS and Flipped Classroom and yourself. Okay, so thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
It's been awesome.
Karine, Gleice, mando de volta para vocês, meninas.
Karine,
Obrigada.
Gleice, now back to you. Have a nice evening. So I think everything's okay for us here, right? Okay, great. So thank you so very much for an amazing evening, an amazing talk. I want to learn more. Yes, I missed the event already. Thank you so very much for joining us and for everything you have taught us.
Muito obrigada.
Can you hear me? Good. It was really nice listening to this enriching talk with a lot of very relevant reflections and the interaction from our audience. You enrich this event with your engagement, with your commitment here with us today to talk about education, technology, and innovation. And there's more to come, much more. This is just the first day. We are at the end of the first day, but as we mentioned in the beginning, we are going to have different encounters. The second one will be on June 2nd, and there will be a lot of content there. So on the June 2nd, we're going to have our educational content director, Georgia Maria, talking about the power of education and how it has transformed her own life. Then we'll have an amazing talk with one of the greater thinkers in terms of digital technology and innovation and transformation, Marta Gabriel, talking about digital revolution in education. And last but not least, we will discover how to think in an innovative but simple way with the CEO of Samatec, Gustavo Caetano, who will be talking to Carol Milerio, a director of educational consultants and SAS. Oh, I'm eager for that, just like for the vaccine, right? Exactly. I'll choose a nice clothes to wear, but no, just kidding. This will be an amazing encounter next Wednesday at 6:30, and it won't be the last. We will have more days, and we will only be over on June 16th. There's a lot to come. Many interesting lectures, speakers. So put a reminder on your phone, because remember, for us, your participation is crucial to make your event even better. And since we're talking about development, evolution, revolution, how we can improve education, we would also like to remind all of you that we have a satisfaction survey at the end. It's really important for us to be able to listen to each and every one of you. You can see the QR code to our survey here on the screen. And it's really important for you to tell us how we can improve this event for you. You can also find the link on the chat. Please go there. Tell us what you think. We really want to know. Another thing is that our well, these meetings together. Oh, you had mentioned there will be some spoilers, right? Yeah, now you can talk about what. Yes, Glacy talked about that right before the event started. We will be certificating those of you who take part in our meetings. We will send that to you by email after the 4 meetings, right? Our 4 getters. This will be sent to the email you use to sign in to this event. So remember to set up a reminder on your phone to be here with us every Wednesday. It's going to be great, just like it was today. And unfortunately, our time is over. No, but wait, I'm eager for the next time. I'm sure I'll see you all there. Thank you very much for. Oh, but wait. We have more people to say goodbye. But thank you. And now we go to Isaac and Cassia to also say goodbye in the interaction zone. Yeah, that's it, Glaze Carini. We're here to interact a little bit more with you before we leave to wrap up our last day of the SAS Summit. As you heard, we have a lot more to come. And let's see what happened throughout the last talk in this amazing talk between Renata and John. Let's see what the social media say. Yes, what here we have some of the pictures you have sent us on Instagram, but I like to also ask you all to respond to our survey so that we can wrap up everything we have learned today. So in this survey, we see that considering everything that John said, what are you feeling now? What are you going to start implementing now? We'll be talking a little bit more about the results of this survey in a few minutes. Here we have amazing pictures, everybody tagging SAS education. And before we leave, I'd like to celebrate your engagement. We were not able to show all the photos you posted, but we were reading all your messages on the chat, and we had a constant number of people here with us throughout our session. Now people are saying goodbye. Osanete said that you were always bringing the best content possible to partner schools. Professor Caramudo from the Motiva School is also leaving his kind words. Thank you for such amazing comments. But I think Isaac wanted to say something before we go. Yes, I'd like you all to please answer our survey. You can scan the QR code here on your screen. This is crucial for us to be able to keep improving SAS Summit every week so we can get better at each time we see you. Thank you so very much for your time and for joining us. It has been an amazing pleasure to talk to you about the future of education. I'll see you next week. Good evening, everyone.